Thanks to Skillshare for keeping LegalEagle in the air. Learn to think like a lawyer for free for 2 months by clicking the link in the description. Turner Tenney, better known by his Fortnite name of Tfue, started a firestorm by accusing his management group FaZe Clan of an oppressive labor contract. What is he complaining about? And is the contract really that bad, or is Tfue just a greedy gamer who was bitter about signing an unfavorable contract? The answer could end up setting legal precedent that will determine the rights of thousands of professional gamers all over the country. Hey LegalEagles, it's time to think like a lawyer. Today we are adjudicating the case of Tfue versus FaZe Clan. You may know the background here. Hundreds of millions of people love playing video games. Their passion for gaming has led to the creation of a new industry known as eSports, which allows players to play competitively for cash prizes. Esports is a multi-billion-dollar industry. Professional gamers in 2019 can make millions of dollars, live in fancy mansions, fly on private jets, and make plenty of money. Investors are looking to cash in as well and are pumping hundreds of millions of dollars into the esports industry, which promises to establish video game leagues that will eventually rival professional sports in revenue and public attention. And when there's billions of dollars at stake, that can only mean one thing: lawyers! Which of course leads us to the matter of Tfue versus FaZe Clan. Or is it FaZe Clan? Capitalization is apparently hard with these people. At any rate, if you're watching this video, you probably already know who Tfue is. He is a 21-year-old gamer who is currently one of the top Fortnite players in the world. Tfue regularly wins Fortnite tournaments, has made over $500,000 in prize money in just 29 tournaments. He has his own YouTube channel and is far and away the most watched Fortnite streamer on Twitch. All of this makes him a star on the rise in the esports world. If you're watching this video, you probably also know who FaZe Clan is. It may sound like a mid-90s hip-hop collective, but FaZe Clan is actually one of the biggest brands in esports. FaZe Clan bills itself as a professional esports organization. It has its own esport teams with players who compete in tournaments for Fortnite, Call of Duty, and Rainbow Six. FaZe Clan also sponsors events and has its own Twitch and YouTube streams. Topping it all off, FaZe Clan purports to be a lifestyle brand which sells t-shirts and hats and other items as well. In 2018, FaZe Clan sought to partner with Tfue, culminating in a contract, a quote gamer agreement, for Tfue to play for their league. When Tfue signed the gamer agreement with FaZe back in 2018, he wasn't quite the star that he is now, but by 2019, Tfue was dominant at Fortnite and has a growing personal brand, which gave him more opportunities and endorsements outside of the FaZe Clan umbrella. This is probably where the party's interests may have started to diverge. Tfue was unhappy and said that the gamer agreement that he signed forced him to remain with the team for 3 years, stuck him with a salary of just $2,000 per month, and let them keep 50% of most of the fees and 20% of his prize money. He also said that the contract allowed FaZe Clan to take up to 80% of any brand deals that were made for Tfue's personal channels. That means that if Tfue signed a deal to run an ad on his personal YouTube channel, FaZe Clan would get to keep most of the money. The founder of FaZe Clan, Ricky Banks, accused Tfue of being disloyal. He said that the company hadn't taken the 20% cut of prize money it was entitled to under the contract. Banks said that despite the contract terms, FaZe Clan hasn't collected any revenue from Tfue's tournament earnings, Twitch revenue, YouTube revenue, or any other source. Banks asserted that his company had only made $60,000 on Tfue since the contract was signed. Tfue characterized the contract as oppressive since he's locked in for 3 years, an initial 6-month term plus an additional 36-month extension, which FaZe Clan has already exercised, which means that he can't compete for other teams.
This is about me and this contract. This contract that I signed when I didn't know any better. I'm an idiot. I should have never signed it in the first place. This 3-year contract.
Tfue then initiated 2 legal proceedings against FaZe Clan. First, he sued FaZe Clan in court and filed a petition with the California Labor Commission. The petition with the California Labor Commission alleges that FaZe is acting as an unlicensed talent agency in violation of California labor laws, which are meant to protect entertainers from gross exploitation. The petition asks the California Labor Commission to require the state to regulate FaZe Clan like any other talent agency, and we'll come back to this later. The second action was a standard lawsuit filed in the Superior Court for Los Angeles County. In it, Tfue raises 7 claims against FaZe Clan. A claim or a cause of action in a lawsuit are separate, independent reasons for why a party asserts they're entitled to win the lawsuit. It's normal to put more than one of those claims or causes of action in a lawsuit, even if the whole thing sounds in breach of contract, as Tfue's claims basically do here. So first, Tfue is asking the court for what's called a declaratory judgment about the status of the gamer agreement that he signed. A declaratory judgment is when the court issues an order determining the relationship between the parties. A declaratory judgment is a binding opinion about the rights and responsibilities of two parties. Often you'll see this in a breach of contract case where the contract actually hasn't been breached, but it will be depending on the different interpretations of the two parties. In that kind of a case, you'd go into court asking for an actual declaration even before the damages haven't necessarily arisen. Tfue says that FaZe Clan materially breached the agreement by accepting money from third parties for sponsorships of Tfue involving modeling, jewelry, and apparel. But according to Tfue, after he provided these services, FaZe Clan did not distribute any of the money to Tfue in accordance with the agreement. Tfue is asking the court for a declaratory judgment that the contract was breached by FaZe Clan and is now void, so he can get out of any obligations he has to fulfill the rest of his contract term. The second claim is a claim for declaratory judgment that the clauses in the gamer agreement which pertain to exclusivity and matching rights violate section 16600 of the California Business and Professions Code. California is very hostile to any agreement that purports to limit a person's ability to practice their profession. The contract has a 6-month non-compete clause following termination, and generally non-compete clauses are illegal in California except for when you have a non-compete with an equity partner or like a CEO. As a result, it's very difficult for any non-compete agreement to pass muster under California law, but there's also an issue in terms of whether you can just void the contract provision itself or whether you have to void the entire contract in general. Here, section 16600 states that every contract by which anyone is restrained from engaging in a lawful profession, trade, or business of any kind is to that extent void. Under the gamer agreement, Tfue cannot contract with another gaming company without FaZe Clan's consent. Tfue characterizes this and other sections of the contract as an illegal restraint on trade and anti-competitive behavior that violates section 16600. The third claim is for a violation of California Business and Professions Code section 17200, which precludes a person from engaging in what's called unfair competition. All California lawyers know Business and Professions Code section 17200 very, very well. It's basically a catch-all for any shady business practices. It applies to any unlawful, unfair, or fraudulent business act or practice, and unfair, deceptive, untrue, or misleading advertising. Tfue alleges that FaZe Clan's business practices, embodied by the gamer agreement, have restrained his business, caused him financial losses, and threatened to cause other damages. Tfue wants the court to stop FaZe Clan's business practices and pay him restitution for any revenue and profits that FaZe Clan made from these business practices. One of the reasons you would assert a claim under section 17200 is that it gives you what are called restitution damages, which are not necessarily the same as contract damages. Tfue's fourth cause of action is for money that FaZe Clan collected for sponsorship deals that it did not give to Tfue. The fifth claim is for quantum meruit. Quantum meruit is a Latin term that means as much as he deserved. It is an action to recover the reasonable value of services rendered by one party to another. Tfue alleges that he provided services to FaZe Clan and other sponsors, and that those companies benefited from those services, but that Tfue did not receive compensation for the value of those services. The sixth claim is for breach of written contract. In this claim, Tfue says that in the event that the court finds that the gamer agreement is valid and enforceable, Tfue has done everything that was required to do under the agreement, while FaZe Clan has failed to uphold its end of the bargain. Tfue is seeking money damages for breach of contract. Finally, Tfue's seventh cause of action is for breach of fiduciary duty. Regardless of whether FaZe Clan is considered a talent agency, Tfue claims that it owed him a fiduciary duty to act in good faith and in Tfue's interest at all times. By refusing a deal to avoid making another sponsor upset, the complaint alleges FaZe Clan acted against Tfue's interests. So, do any of these claims hold water? Well, all plaintiffs write their complaints, that's the document that starts a lawsuit, in a way that is favorable to their case and almost certainly leaves out any information that's favorable to the defendant. So you have to look at these lawsuits with a grain of salt. On the breach of contract allegations, if true, they likely do give rise to a material breach of the contract. Generally speaking, when one party has materially breached the contract, it lets the other side off the hook for further performance. And given Tfue's newfound fame and success, that's probably what he cares most about, to get out of this onerous contract so he can work with other people. The Section 17200 claim is probably a catch-all in case the breach of contract claim fails. The quantum Meruit claim is to recover any funds that wouldn't already be covered by the contract, or if the court declares that the contract is void ab initio, in other words, void from the beginning, it's a cause of action that would allow him to recover what is fair, even if it's not actually covered by the contract. But the thrust of the allegations here are for breach of contract, asserting that FaZe Clan has breached the contract and therefore Tfue is free to work with somebody else. A lot of people have pointed out how, quote, unfair this contract is as a reason for why the contract should be voided. But Tfue isn't really arguing that the contract is so unfair as to be legally unenforceable. He's arguing, as he probably should, that FaZe Clan breached the contract and therefore it's void. There is actually a concept in the law that voids a contract for unfairness. It's called when a contract is unconscionable. In making this determination, courts look at both the substantive aspects of the contract, are the terms on their own unfair to one party, as well as the procedural aspects by which the contract was reached. Did the complaining party have the time and/or resources to fully understand the contract? But you have to meet both the procedural and substantive aspect of unconscionability in order for the court to declare a contract as void. Tfue's contract doesn't really fit that definition. There is no real evidence of procedural unfairness like fraud or a contract of adhesion. Sure, the contract sucks for Tfue, but it probably doesn't fit the definition of unconscionable. For example, people point to the 20-80 split of certain fees and winnings, but that only matters if Tfue actually won. Certain gamers might put great value in the fact that they get a guaranteed $2,000 per month, and a court isn't likely to second guess that. That's why Tfue's attorneys don't even bother really making the argument that this contract is unconscionable. Moreover, Tfue is a lot more famous now than when he signed. So like a rookie contract in regular sports, FaZe Clan would argue that the contract reflected the parties' positions when they signed or executed the contract, and certainly the uncertainty of actually working with Tfue at that stage in his career. And in addition to a guaranteed salary, FaZe Clan would argue that they gave him help and invested in his future just like you would in normal sports when you take on a rookie performer. But let's talk about what potential defenses FaZe Clan might have to these assertions of breach of contract. What does FaZe Clan have to say for its defense? Well, first of all, FaZe Clan disputes Tfue's characterization of the gamer agreement, noting that it has been in negotiation with Tfue's representatives to offer him a new and better contract. FaZe Clan says that its previous legal team was responsible for the 80-20 and 20-80 split on profits, and after FaZe Clan got new lawyers last summer, its new contracts reversed the split so that the gamer gets 80% of all of those deals and FaZe Clan only gets 20%. FaZe Clan states that just like any sports team or movie company or record company, its original deal with its gamers is based on their talent and their perceived value of that talent at the time of the contract. Like any entertainment company or sports team, FaZe Clan looks to renegotiate a deal when the talent starts to dramatically improve, and this is what the company alleges it has done with Tfue. Now, this isn't terribly relevant to Tfue's allegations that FaZe Clan actually breached the contract that they, in fact, executed. It's, in fact, sort of an admission that their current contract is unfair. But since Tfue isn't really arguing unconscionability, it probably doesn't hurt them too much to argue the optics of things and say that they're offering a new contract. In recognition of Tfue's Fortnite abilities, FaZe Clan says it has offered him a 7-figure bonus and some options that give Tfue 100% of any deals they negotiated for him. According to FaZe Clan, Tfue has failed to respond to any or all of these overtures.
As early as September 28th of last year, we sent the first revised version of a contract for Tfue. We sent him a new agreement to his lawyer January 24th of this year. We sent another updated thought on April 3rd, then again on April 29th. We gave him so many different options that had little or even some of them had no money going to FaZe Clan. And yet we still couldn't get a deal done. And we come to find that the reason why is he never planned on getting a deal done with us. He wanted to start a competing organization.
Now, whether Tfue has ignored FaZe Clan's overtures or whether he wants to start a competing company as FaZe Clan alleges, probably won't have much effect on the lawsuit itself. The future conduct of the parties doesn't really have much bearing on the actual facts as they exist now and in the past. FaZe Clan also disputes the notion that the contracts are predatory. In its Twitter statement, the company notes that over the last several months, it has encouraged any FaZe Clan member interested in hiring an outside manager or agent to do so. But FaZe Clan's best strategy may be to actually lean into the draconian terms of the current contract. FaZe Clan recognizes the 50-50 split and sometimes 20-80 split in the contract, but argues that it has never collected its 80%. Now, assuming that FaZe Clan actually upheld its end of the bargain, FaZe Clan could be entitled to that 80% that's actually written into the contract. Now that the parties have broken up and are going their separate ways, FaZe Clan could go after its 80% as written in the contract from Tfue. After all, what does it have to lose? Countersuing for 80% would give FaZe Clan a bargaining chip against Tfue. Additionally, since FaZe Clan and Tfue are unlikely to ever get back together, FaZe Clan will probably want to counterclaim for any projected amounts that Tfue would have made during the remaining period of the contract.
Because we were having these issues and because we wanted Turner to feel that we had his back, we made the decision to not collect any money under the old agreement. Nothing from prize pool, nothing from YouTube, nothing from anything, except for a couple of brand deals that he accepted that we only took 20% of. And those deals came from us to him.
If FaZe Clan upheld its end of the bargain in the contract, then it would be Tfue who is the one who was breaching the agreement by failing to play for FaZe, which would make him liable for FaZe's expectation damages during the remaining years of the contract. Of course, that is a big if. In either case, FaZe Clan will want to show that it did not breach the contract, while Tfue will argue that they did breach the contract. I can't opine on the likelihood of either situation because I don't know the underlying facts. That's what the lawsuit is for. The crucial question in this litigation is whether FaZe Clan upheld its end of the bargain and gave Tfue everything he was entitled to under the contract. The crucial question is not whether the contract is unfair to Tfue. Now, Tfue also filed a petition with the California Labor Commissioner. Here, Tfue makes some bold allegations about FaZe Clan's activities. Tfue says that he was pressured to drink before he turned 21, and FaZe Clan encouraged him and other residents to gamble while on FaZe Clan property. Tfue says that FaZe Clan pressured and expected residents of the FaZe house to perform dangerous stunts, which resulted in Tfue's permanent injury. The Labor Commission petition argues that gamers are entertainers and artists who must be represented by licensed talent agencies under California's Talent Agency Act, which regulates the relationship between talent agencies and their clients. For Tfue to be covered by the Talent Agency Act, among other things, he has to prove that he falls under the definition of an artist under that statute. To me, the Labor Commission petition seems like the tail wagging the dog in this litigation, though. Certainly not an expert in this particular niche of California labor and employment law, so feel free to view my analysis with skepticism here. But I do know my way around California litigation. And when you go to the trouble of filing a lawsuit, you tend to throw everything that you have at it. Some arguments are better than others. And to me, it feels like the Labor Commission argument is colorable, but it's really just there to back up the main breach of contract claim. It's possible that this petition could have wide-ranging effects on the professional gamer community if the Talent Agency Act is expanded to cover them, but this seems like a claim that is probably going to settle before getting to that stage and setting new law, but we'll see how it unfolds. Now, instead of watching video games, have you ever thought about designing your own video game? You could learn how by taking Brandon Wu's class on making a 2D platformer on Skillshare. Brandon takes you through all the steps to building your first video game with Unity with no coding required. You could learn to make the next Fortnite. Or if you're more of a fan artist, you could take Mislav Majdonstik's masterclass in pixel art, which will teach you how to draw sprites right out of Mega Man. Skillshare is an online learning community that has over 25,000 classes on everything like lifestyle, design, technology, business, you name it. There are almost 2,000 courses on video games alone. The first 500 Legal Eagles will get 2 free months of Skillshare when you click on the link below. Plus, it really helps out the channel. The free premium membership gives you unlimited access to must-know topics so you can improve your skills and learn new things. All free for 2 months. Improve yourself and you could make the video game that takes over the entire esports industry. So click on the link below, get 2 free months of Skillshare, and start learning to think like a lawyer today. It could even help you become the next Sid Meier. So, do you agree with my analysis? Do you support Tfue or FaZe Clan? I think I know which way you guys are going to vote on that one. Leave your objections in the comments, and check out my other real law reviews over here where I analyze pressing issues of the day like the Mueller report and PewDiePie. So just click on this link and I'll see you in court in the next one.